I seen.
There are folks out there born with a gift so real, so raw, that when they play music, it's like they tear straight through the veil that separates all the layers of reality. They make the past, the present, and the future sit together like old friends at the same table, where even life and death might cross paths for a moment. Over the years, people like that been called all sorts of names, mostly remembered for their healing powers, though they got a way of pulling in the darkness too. That's how this wild story kicks off, down in Mississippi, on October 16th, 1932. That's when we meet young Sammy Moore, walking into his father's church with a scar on his face and only part of his guitar in hand. His father, clearly shaken, starts preaching hard, hoping to save the boy's soul. He tells him to swear, right then and there, that he's gonna give up music for good, leave behind all them sinful ways. But not once do we see Sammy let go of that guitar. Then we rewind to the day before, when the whole community is getting ready to hit the cotton fields. Sammy had shown up early, finished his share, and now he's heading back home, bringing some joy to his folks under that roof. Meanwhile, we meet the twins, Smoke and Stack, two brothers waiting real calm-like to meet with Hogwood, hoping to seal the deal on buying out a property. But Hogwood don't take him seriously, not at first. That is, till they let him know this place ain't for games. It's men and real bullets out here. They close the deal all right, and before they leave, they remind Hogwood exactly what's theirs now, and they warn him clear. They don't want to see no white folks around. If anybody steps in uninvited, they won't think twice about letting the bullets fly. Next, we see Sammy walking back into church with his father. When he spots his guitar sitting in the corner, the pastor tells him he brought it along because he wants him to help with the words for tomorrow's sermon. But Sammy barely gets through a few lines before he says he's got to bounce. You got a crowd waiting to hear him play. His father asks him if he truly believes playing for drunks and cheaters is more important than staying in the Lord's house. The kid swears he'll be there for the morning prayer, but his father warns him, if you ever play for the devil, don't act surprised if that devil decides to follow you home. Right then, the twins show up to pick up their cousin Sammy. On the way, they start talking about his time up in Chicago. Sammy says he heard the city's not as racist as Mississippi, but his cousins shut that down real quick. Tell him it's the same trash, just with taller buildings. That's why they came back, to face the plague they already know. Once they reach the deepest part of the trail, they show him a truck hidden in the thick brush packed full of goods. Their plan is to open up a bar and throw its grand opening that same night, strictly for the black folks in the area. So they start divvying up the tasks. We see Smoke pull into town, where he calls over a little girl nearby. After making sure she knows who the twins, Smoke and Stack, are, he offers her a deal. She'll watch over the truck and he'll pay her for it. Meanwhile, he heads off to find Bo Chow, an old buddy who runs a shop, to ask for a hand with the night's big event. They need enough fish to feed at least 100 people. But before they can catch up and talk about Chicago, their conversation gets cut off by the sound of the truck horn blaring outside. When they rush out and get close to the truck, Smoke sees it's being looted. Staying cool, he pulls his gun and takes a shot, no hesitation, right at one of the thieves. The guy, startled, recognizes Smoke and backs off quick, apologizing. Said he didn't know the truck belonged to him. The girl had warned him, but Terry didn't believe her. He had no idea Smoke was back from Chicago. Before letting them go, our guy decides to leave the second thief with a reminder. He can't risk people thinking it's okay to mess with the twins and walk away without consequences. Then he heads back to his boy Chow, asks him to patch up the wounded and whip up a sign for the new spot ready by tonight. Right away, Chow's daughter runs across the street to fetch her mother. The woman shows up ready to talk business with Smoke. He needs that sign fast. The two of them start haggling, going back and forth on the price until they land on a deal that includes a bouquet of flowers as part of the package. Meanwhile, Stack is chopping it up with Sammy. He starts telling his cousin how to really satisfy a woman with his tongue. Says that's the secret to making sure she never walks away from you. But they soon shift the convo and start talking about the twins' old man. Stack, knowing Sammy's old enough now to hear it straight, tells him the truth. Their father once beat him so bad he blacked out cold. When he came to, Smoke had already buried the man. Did it cause he was tired of the abuse they took for years. Still, over time, Stack finds himself remembering the old man with a weird kind of softness. The twins start scouting for musicians to play at their new joint, and the first one to join naturally is Samuel. He blows Stack away with just a short performance. Later on, they roll up to a station and run into Delta Slim, a piano man who throws shade at Sammy's guitar skills and doubts the whole twin club idea will ever work out. He tells Stack, even if you hand me $20 for the night, that don't mean this venture is gonna last. He can't afford to risk his steady job just to back the twins' dream. He even says that the poverty he lives in is already punishment enough for a sinner like him. Moved by his words, Stack pulls out a bottle of Irish beer and offers Delta Slim a drink, slowly starting to win him over. He promises to pay him $40 that same night and tells him he can drink as much beer as he wants. That's all it takes. Delta agrees on the spot. When Samuel and Delta Slim start playing in front of the crowd, our guy takes the chance to hype up the opening of their new bar, set to kick off later that same night. Not long after, Sammy spots a singer in the crowd, Perline. Though she don't accept his invite right away, she leaves Samuel hanging, wondering if she'll show up or not. Suddenly, Samuel notices a white woman watching his cousin. He goes over to warn him, but the man's already clocked her, and he asks Samuel to give him a minute alone. That's when we find out it's Mary. Still hurt because he walked out of her life without a word after swearing he'd love her forever. He tells her straight up to leave, reminding her that he was the one who ended things, but Mary tells him she's in town because they just buried her mother. and she's upset the twins didn't show up to the funeral, especially after she looked after them like they were her own kids. On the way back, they run into a group of inmates who go way back with Delta Slim. He tells them how back in his younger days he and a friend got picked up by white sheriffs and were forced to play music for him. They even got taken around to perform for rich white families, but all the cash they earned just ended up spent on liquor. Unlike him, his friend was seen with money he'd made fair and square, and he got lynched by the Ku Klux Klan. They claimed he'd robbed a white family just to justify killing him. Later on, the crew makes a stop at a cotton field, where Delta goes looking for an old friend to offer him a job. Elsewhere, we see Smoke again, holding a bunch of white roses in his hands, ready to lay him down on the grave of the daughter Life stole from him. The woman he had the child with greets him and asks why he's come back. He tells Annie they just took over a place they're fixing to turn into a saloon, but she's suspicious. She figures they must have stolen money from some white folks to pull it off. During their talk, we learn Annie practices witchcraft and spiritual work. She swears it was her prayers and her roots that kept him alive while he was off at war. But Smoke wants to know why those same prayers ain't saved their daughter. After Annie blesses his talisman, he offers her a spot working in the kitchen of the cantina they're opening later that night. Still, Smoke admits that coming back to that place brings him a deep kind of pain. Even so, he loves and misses her so much that his own feelings and discomfort don't even matter anymore. The two of them, both moved by the same pain they carry, decide to bring back some old habits, ones filled with love and tenderness. And so the two head to the cantina together, full of hope to kick off this new chapter in their lives. But suddenly the scene cuts to a whole different story. An Irishman's running across the fields near a Choctaw settlement. He makes it to a lonely house and begs for help from a couple that just so happens to be part of the Ku Klux Klan. They agree to take him in, and when the Choctaw folks knock on their door asking if they've seen any strangers in the area, the couple plays dumb, but one of the natives, smelling something off, warns them that man ain't what he seems, and he hopes they won't have to find that out the hard way. With no other choice, the Choctaw leave, but not long after, the woman goes looking for her husband, who was supposedly hiding the outsider, and she's horrified when she sees the immigrant with his face all covered in blood. From his mouth hang long, sharp fangs. He calmly tells her that her husband is just fine and resting. When she turns around, she sees him laying on the floor, his neck drenched in blood. Then the man rises, now wearing the same terrifying fangs and a bone-chilling stare, saying in a deep, echoing voice that he's never felt better. Meanwhile, our main folks are putting the final touches on the grand opening of the club. The crowd starts rolling in, and the whole place comes to life. The community shows up to drink, to dance, to celebrate. Stack and Annie manage to convince Smoke to give out some discounts, hoping to bring in folks who might not have a lot to spend. The idea is to make everybody feel welcome, so they'll want to come back again. At the entrance, Cornbread stops a white woman, since her kind ain't exactly welcome there. But when he realizes it's Mary, he greets her with a big ol' smile, already knowing he's about to make an exception. Meanwhile, Sammy's chatting with Pearline, telling her he's cousins with the twins, Smoke and Stack. But she don't quite buy it, says he seems way more proper than they do. The young man assures her he ain't nearly as innocent as he looks, and that sometimes he even forgets his manners. That's how we see our crew breathing life into the place, until Sammy spots Mary among the crowd. He walks over and asks her to leave, cause this ain't no place for a lady like her. But the woman recognizes him as Smoke and Stack's cousin, and she heads straight to the bar, where she greets Grace and invites Samuel to grab a drink so they can get to know each other better. Driven by suspicion, the young man asks her who she is. That's when Mary explains her mother was the midwife who helped deliver the twins' mother's babies, and that she worked a miracle just so both of them could be born, even after the woman had already passed. Her mother, she says, nursed those boys like they were her own flesh and blood. But the moment she realizes Smoke is listening, Mary throws in the reminder once again that not one of them had the decency to send her mother a single flower when she passed away. Our guy, not willing to tolerate her mouth or let her break the house rules, turns to his brother and asks him to escort her out. Stack walks over and tries handing her some cash so she'll leave quietly. He just can't figure why she keeps insisting on being there when he already hooked her up with a good life, a rich white husband, and a big old farm where she'd never go without. But Mary fires back, saying she never wanted none of that. The only thing she ever truly wanted was to be by his side. That's when our main man reminds her, if anybody sees her there, if word gets out, the Ku Klux Klan will come after her and end her life without thinking twice. He's just trying to keep her safe, because if anyone even thinks about laying a hand on her, he and his brother will burn the whole damn town to the ground. But Mary can't understand how he's willing to kill for her, but he still ain't got the guts to just tell her the truth. She reminds him she waited for him, that she dreamed of picking up where they left off, but Stack never came back, not until it was too late. He finally admits that he still loves her, and that her well-being's always been on his mind, but he knew deep down that he could never give her the life she deserved. Being from different races, he walked away to protect her, and so the night goes on, the party still jumping with the finest music around. Before long, Sammy Moore steps up in front of the crowd and gives just a taste of what he can do, enough to make it clear he's got a natural-born gift. gift. While he performs, he remembers how his talent shows up almost like magic. Then we're reminded that some people are born with a gift so real, so raw, that their music ends up linking entire realities. Sounds from the past, today's rhythms, and ancient tribal dances all blend together in what they create. But that kind of gift, it draws darkness too. And right on cue, we see the newly turned vampires show up at the cantina, pretending to be just regular folks. Later on, we find out Sammy's already made it to second base with Perline. But when Stack tries to head into the same area and hears a woman shouting his cousin's name, he figures he'll leave that drama for later and go talk to his brother about the sketchy future of the prophet Smoke's planning for. Meanwhile, Cornbread is dealing with a group of white men trying to get in, claiming they're musicians who heard about the party through the grapevine. Soon as the twins show up at the door, the strangers introduce themselves and say they recognize the voice that pulled them in like a magnet. They swear up and down they ain't with the Ku Klux Klan, saying they're just a bunch of amateur musicians looking to blow some cash. And they play a quick little tune to prove they come in peace. Even so, Smoke don't want to hear a note of it and straight up tells them to beat it, making it clear this place ain't for white folks. Only exception is Mary, cause she's family. Despite all their pleading, the outsiders back off once they spot the piece Smoke's got tucked at his waist. Stack, trying to be the more chill one, thinks maybe they should let him in, says they seem harmless enough, but his brother shuts that down quick, reminding him of all the trouble they'd be risking if something went sideways. He ain't taking no chances, so he gives Cornbread a firm order. Don't let those fellas through the door, no matter what. A little while later, Sammy walks over to his cousin to thank him for giving him the chance to play that night, but Smoke tells him straight, it might feel good now, but music ain't exactly the road to happiness. He's seen too many artists with raw talent end up miserable. Still, after everything that went down that night, Sammy feels like he's finally got the push he needed. He decides he's heading to Chicago to chase after his own future. His cousin, though, knows that youth tends to blur the truth, so he tells him maybe he should follow in his father's footsteps, the preacher's path. And if he really is set on leaving, then at least go someplace with a solid black community, folks who look out for each other. At the same time, we see Stack having a quiet talk with Mary. He tells her the money situation's looking kinda rough, and that they'll probably need some extra funds if they want to keep the place up and running. Mary offers to go find those Irish fellas from earlier, thinking maybe they'll be willing to spend some of that shiny coin they carry. We watch her walk off into the night all on her own, till she finds them, still playing a soft little tune nearby. When they finish, Mary tells them she just wanted to make sure they were good folks and that they actually had money to spend. That's when Remick shows her they got real solid gold coins on them, but to her that don't mean a damn thing, cause they can sense her pain and they know it ain't about money. It's then that Mary tells them her mother just passed away. Remick apologizes for not being able to save her, says he never met her, so he didn't stand a chance, but he promises he can still save Mary from a terrible fate. And that's when the vampire's eyes flash a deep blood red, and his razor-sharp fangs come peeking out. Mary pulls a gun, tries to warn him off, telling them to leave, but by then it's already too late. Moments later, she returns to the bar, acting like everything's perfectly fine. Even she steps onto the dance floor and meets up with Stack, just to show him the kind of money those Irish guys are throwing around. But then she sneaks in a kiss, trying to sweet talk him into leaving with her and heading somewhere a little more private. Meanwhile, Cornbread steps outside for a quick bathroom break, but starts feeling like he's being watched. At the same time, Smoke is dealing with some chaos inside. A black man stabbed another, not realizing Smoke's own brother is off somewhere getting busy with a woman. When our guy sees drool dripping down Mary's mouth, he brushes it off just so he can keep going without stopping. He don't realize his cousin's already on his way looking for him. Left with no choice, Smoke heads to the door, and what he finds is straight up horror. Blood all over the floor, and his brother laying there crushed under Mary's body. The vampirist tries talking her way out of it, saying he's getting the wrong idea, but Smoke don't even give her the chance to explain. He pulls his weapons, ready to take her down, but the woman rises like nothing happened, mocks his weak attempt to finish her off, and warns him that everyone in that club's gonna die tonight. Then she vanishes right into the darkness. Gunshots echo through the whole place, and everyone rushes over to the twins' side, watching as he bleeds out in his brother's arms. Smoke tries everything to stop it, desperate to save him, but it's no use. His twin dies right there, holding on to his last breath. After that, Slim steps up and calls it. Party's over. He tells everybody to go home. Sammy starts blaming himself, convinced there was something he could have done to stop it. He tells the others about Mary's warnings and how she spoke in plural. Realizing this ain't just some random tragedy, Annie starts piecing things together and calls Smoke out, reminding him the lady who seemed all sweet and normal just got shot up and still got back on her feet like it was nothing. That ain't human. That's something else entirely. So she begs him, no matter what happens, they gotta stay inside the bar. But our guy, still frozen in shock, grieving hard over his brother's death, refuses to move. He pleads with Annie, asks her if she's got any kind of magic, anything that could bring him back. Now's the time to use it. Slowly, Smoke starts facing the truth. His twin is gone. Meanwhile, the Chow family's getting ready to bounce. Their daughter's waiting for him back home, and whatever's coming next might be even worse than what they've already seen. Then Cornbread comes back to his post and sees everything's gone to hell. He's like, yo, I just went to the bathroom. He wants to help with the body, asks them to let him through, but the others block his way. And yeah, he's got the strength to shove right past them, but he doesn't. That's when the woman figures it out. Cornbread got taken out by one of those white dudes outside, and now they're looking at a body that's been possessed. And to Smoke, that theory don't sound all that crazy anymore. Every word that comes out of his mouth makes folks even more suspicious. Even Cornbread himself admits he's got no clue what's going on, but he demands the cash they agreed on if they ain't gonna let him in. Real cautious-like, Smoke hands him the money, but out of nowhere, the guy lunges at him, trying to bite him with some razor-sharp fangs. Lucky for him, our guy manages to save himself with his piece. Thankfully, Smoke breaks free from the vamp and makes it back inside the bar just in time. They lock the door tight, but right away, they hear noises coming from the room where Stack's body's being kept. Suddenly, his brother's voice starts coming through again, sounding just like he always did, full of charm. That pulls Smoke in closer to the door, trying to figure out what the hell's going on because he was sure the guy was dead. But his twin says he was just scared, and even though he lost a whole lot of blood, he's feeling better now. Nobody knows what the hell's really happening, but one thing's for sure. Whatever's behind that door, it sure as hell ain't Stack. Still, the guy starts giving in to the pleading and rushes off looking for the key to let him out. But before he can even unlock the thing, the vamp kicks the damn door down. Right as he's about to pounce on his own brother, Annie shows up with a bottle of vinegar and splashes it right in his face. That makes the creature back off and run. That's when she tells everybody they ain't dealing with the dead, they're dealing with vampires. As time ticks by, Grace starts getting anxious. Her husband went out to grab the car and still hasn't come back, but no one's letting her step outside. They want to keep her from getting herself killed. So Annie tells them all that to fight these things, they're gonna need garlic, wooden stakes, silver, and holy water. She's never actually run into one herself, but she's heard stories about creatures like this, and no matter what they do, they ain't bringing back the folks they lost. The only thing they can do now is wipe out every damn vamp before the vamps wipe them out. The only surefire way to kill one of these nightmares is to burn them up with sunlight or stab a stake straight through their heart. But to Smoke, that sounds like blasphemy. He just can't picture hurting the brother he's been protecting all his life, and he can't wrap his head around why all this is happening now. Out of nowhere, Sammy starts blaming himself. His old man warned him, told him that if he ever played music for the devil'd come find him. Later, when they're alone, Annie begs Smoke. If one of those vamps ends up biting her, he's gotta take her out. She wants to be with their daughter, waiting for him up in heaven, but he swears to her, right then and there, that he ain't gonna let nothing happen to her. Their moment gets cut short by a scream. They found another body in the bar, and they gotta get it out of there before it wakes up. But when they do, they find out the vamps already turned almost everybody else into monsters just like them. Now they're all gathered up celebrating with loud music, dancing, and laughing, their clothes soaked in blood after some wild-ass feast. Our folks, on the other hand, stay quiet and tight. They stick together till Annie starts handing out garlic cloves, trying to figure out which one of them bit the man they dragged out earlier. But Pearline refuses to eat it, says she hates how it tastes. That's when Smoke pulls a gun on her, telling her plain and simple, either she eats it or he'll pull the trigger. Sammy tries to step in, but his cousin reminds him he's just trying to keep everyone alive. And with that, Pearline finally swallows the garlic. But when it's Slim's turn, he starts squirming all weird, acting jumpy. Then he says he's just drunk too much and his nerves are shot. Nobody knows who could have bit the guy because none of them seem like vamps. When they go back to check the spot where they found him, they realize that what looked like blood was actually wine. Suddenly, they hear the guy knocking at the door, begging them to let him in. He says he's got no idea what's going on out there. But by the time they finally open up, it's already too late. Cornbread's already sinking his fangs right into the man's throat. Right then, Bo shows up and tells his wife it's time to go, but she knows she already lost her husband. He don't even flinch at the horrors unfolding all around them. Bo tells her Cornbread's just hungry, that's all. But the second the vamp flashes his silvery eyes, it's clear as day. He's turned into one of them monsters. Soon after, Remick shows up, and once he sees what's going down, he starts trying to convince everyone that the transformation's the best thing that could happen to him. He says they'd get to live forever in peace and harmony. Unlike human life, which he says is full of hatred, racism, and evil, vamps, he says, they don't discriminate. They take everyone in, but when he threatens to go after Grace's daughter, she snaps, just for a second. Then when he turns his attention to Sammy, he says the kid's his real target, cause Sammy's gift, that special thing he's got, it can bring loved ones back from the dead. Remick starts trying to strike a deal, hand Sammy over and the rest can live. Even though the kid's ready to give himself up, nobody's about to let that happen. That's when Remick drops another bomb. He tells Smoke that the guy who sold him the property is one of the big shots in the Ku Klux Klan, a group hell-bent on hunting down people of color. That sick bunch had been planning to take out the twins that very same day, and when Remick showed up at that couple's house earlier, he realized right away they were part of that twisted sect too. Right then, Stack shows up again in front of his brother and confirms that Remick's telling the truth, cause he can see his memories. Still, they ain't trying to hurt nobody. What they really want is to grow their little cult, one based on love and social harmony. The only reason they haven't left yet is cause they ain't planning on leaving anyone behind. They figure with the support they've got, it's finally time to go pay Hogwood a visit. Out of nowhere, Stack reminds his brother they were supposed to be free, but now when they've actually got the shot, he's wasting it. He begs him to come along, even now, at a time like this, cause he can't exist without his twin. And just when it seems like Smoke's about to give in, the others stop him, and they all lock themselves back inside the bar. But for Grace, every second that passes is pure hell. She's terrified for her daughter's life, and she keeps trying to rally some support to take down the monsters before it's too late. Problem is, no one seems to share her sense of urgency. Right then, they all realize they're being surrounded. The vamps are waiting quietly, just outside the doors. When Grace, damn near losing it, threatens to let him in, Remick takes that as an invitation. So now our folks gotta gear up, cause the vamps are coming in. The moment they step foot inside the bar, all hell breaks loose. Bullets don't do a damn thing against those monsters. Still, our lead, an ex-soldier, moves like a pro, taking down as many as he can. Annie, she even goes straight for Remick, but when she lets her guard down, it's Stack himself who tackles her and sinks his teeth into her neck. Smoke can't stop it. Remick's got him pinned down. When he finally breaks free, he runs to the woman he loves, and when he realizes there's no saving her, he keeps his promise not to let her turn. He makes sure she can go be with their daughter. They move quick. Everybody scrambles to get Sammy out through the back of the bar. We see Slim throw himself at the vamps, sacrificing himself to buy him time so the others can make it out. But just when Sammy's about to be taken out of there, Remick shows up and catches him off guard. Stack lunges at Smoke, but the kid don't get bit. That's cause Perline steps in the way and takes the bite instead. Sammy's helpless. There ain't nothing he can do. He's forced to run, keeps running till sunrise, but Remick pops up again and knocks him down. The kid's scared out of his mind. All he can do is pray, and somehow the vampire starts praying with him. While back inside the cantina, the twins are still fighting to the death. In the middle of this brutal beatdown, Smoke gets fed up with his brother's insolence and decides to go all in. When our lead finally overpowers his brother and has Stack in his sights, he apologizes for not being able to save him, though Stack knows he could have done it all along. Out of nowhere, Sammy grabs the guitar from the lake and delivers a crushing blow to the vampire, sending shockwaves of pain when the silver decoration smashes into his skull. With superhuman will, Remick pulls it out of his head, trying to go for Sammy's neck, but just before he can, Smoke drives a wooden stake through his chest, slowly starting the process of killing him. As the sun rises, the vampire plague starts burning uncontrollably, and there's no time for anyone to hide. Not even Remick can escape his fate, and he finally succumbs to the flames that take him down. In the end, our heroes make it out of this hell. Smoke asks his cousin to bury the guitar and reveals that it belonged to his father. They say their goodbyes, knowing they gotta go their separate ways. We see Sammy walking with his father to the church, while Smoke reflects on the best moments of his life with his brother and how, for just a second, it felt like life was actually smiling on the colored men. Filled with helpless rage, he also remembers Annie's death, and with the Ku Klux Klan about to show up, he knows he's gotta get ready, packing his best weapons to face them. Just then, they roll up to the cantina, where they get picked off from a distance by our protagonist. With his deadly aim, he wipes out every last one of those racists. Armed with more hidden weapons, he makes sure not a single one's left breathing. But it ain't long before he catches a bullet that starts bleeding him out. Soon, he looks at the woman he loves, waiting for him with their daughter. Knowing he's gotta take out that racist to finally reunite with his family, he does it without hesitation. On the other side, we see Sammy chose to follow his passion, even if it meant moving to Chicago and growing old doing what he loves.